All right.
Just had.
So we're going to continue our list over here, and we're going to do this via our first poem. Our first poem is littered with what we're going to call sound devices. This was on your quiz, as you know, and hopefully some of these made it onto your list. You may have encountered this poem before. This may be somewhat familiar, and also it may not be. Before we get into the poem, though, we want to look at what reapers are.
Just a page. Is that the 10th grade book?
Yes, there's one right over there.
Okay.
So let's start with just a brief reading of the poem. And for this, let's nominate someone. Vince, go for it.
Black reapers, with the sound of steel on stones, are sharpening sides. I see them place the hones in their hip pockets as a thing that's done, and start their silent swinging one by one. Black horses drive a mower through the weeds, and there a field rat, startled, squealing bleeds, his belly close to the ground. I see the blade, blood-stained, continue cutting weeds and shade.
Brief read through the poem. Just a brief read through. But if you remember our questions of analysis, we can go ahead and answer at least the first two. Black reapers with the sound of steel and stones are sharpening sides. I see them. We have a first-person speaker here. Now, what's a scythe?
Big old stick with a blade at the end.
Long curve.
Longer, tiny version of a sickle.
Yes. And what do they do with them?
They
Cut the
wheat.
grass.
They cut the weeds, they cut the grass. Okay? That's what's going on here. Who's the speaker?
Anonymous first person.
Who's what?
What's
Viewing these farmers.
Watching. Someone watching people with the scythes, with the long sickles. That's our speaker. What's the occasion?
nighttime?
I.e., what are they doing?
Cutting stuff.
They're cutting stuff. They're cutting the weeds. They're cutting the grass. That's it. You've just answered the first two out of the 4 questions of analysis. You know what's going on here. Now, we have to answer our third question. But we can't just jump into that. If we jumped into that, we would say something like, people mow the grass and sometimes they kill animals. That's not the central purpose, that's a summary. Summary is not equated to central purpose. For central purpose, we must look at the component pieces of this poem and put them together. Let's start with the first one, which is tone. Just from the language in the poem, black reapers with the sound of steel on stones are sharpening sighs. I see them place the hones in their hip pockets as a thing that's done and start their silent swinging one by one. Black horses drive a mower through the weeds, and there a field rat, startled, squealing, bleeds, his belly close to the ground. I see the blade, blood-stained, continue cutting weeds and shade.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Why? What is our evidence that this tone is going to be a negative one?
Black reapers
Well,
is
a lot
the
of
first 2 words.
Yeah, okay, that's a bit of an issue. What else?
All of the language that they
Sides.
use has a negative connotation.
Almost every word in this poem has a negative connotation. And we get that from the sound imagery components. As you know from your reading, every word has 3 specific parts. What is the first part of the word? The sound itself. The sound of the word. Every word. Desk, chair, cup, book has a sound. That is the first component. What is the second component of the word?
Denotation.
Denotation, definition. Which we're going to write over here. Denotation, which is the dictionary definition of a word. A word may have several denotations. Case in point, spring. Denotation number 1, Mr. Devon.
Metal object.
A metal object, coiled wire of some sort. A spring. Denotation number 2, Vince.
Time of the year.
Season. Good. Connotation number 3, Andrew.
A source of water.
A babbling brook. Connotation number 4, Ola.
Denotation.
Denotation number 4.
A verb.
Like what?
To jump.
To jump, to spring, to, as they say, tigger.
Yeah.
The most wonderful thing about tiggers is tiggers are wonderful things. Their tops are made of the rubber, their bottoms are made of the springs. They're bouncy, 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 fun, 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 fun. But the most wonderful thing about tiggers is,
I'm the old one.
so it goes. The point is this, we have 4 denotations so far for a single word. Now, if you consider it like this, spring, 1, 2, 3, 4 denotations. Every single one of those denotations, like for instance, the season, has thousands of connotations. I say spring the season. What comes to your mind, Noah, first thing?
Rain.
The rains. The rains of spring bring forth the beauty of summer. They often say that what month? The rains of
April.
April. April showers bring May flowers.
Or what do Mayflowers bring?
There you go. So, ultimately, you have, first of all, rain. Another connotation.
Tennis.
Flowers.
Baseball.
Easter.
Rebirth. Love. All spring. I think spring break. I think wonderful vacation that I don't get to go on. I think sneezing, allergies. I think flowers. I think mowing the yard. I think weeds. All that kind of stuff. These are all the things with spring. So I might say spring, and all of a sudden Vince is thinking of the smell of mulch. I didn't put that into his head. He thought of that as a connotation that stemmed from the denotation of spring. In other words, these words are loaded because they have a sound, they have a denotation, and they have a connotation. And that is why a single word is such a powerful thing, because a single word could span 1,000 possible different ideas in your mind. I mean, take such a simple word as the word cat. When I say cat, and I say to you, picture a cat, there's no telling what cat you're actually picturing. Maybe a Siamese cat, maybe a big fat tabby cat, maybe a tomcat. Maybe you're thinking like big cat, like lion or something like that, or tiger. The fact is, there's all sorts of different connotations for this. Maybe some of you are thinking of a Kit Kat. Who knows? Allusion, imagery, tone, denotation, connotation. Every single word has one of these. And our words in this poem are overwhelmingly dark in their connotation. If I say bleeds, blood-stained, cutting, swinging, sides, sharpening, sound, steel, all of these are kind of negative in their sounds. And a lot of these words start with what letter?
Yes.
An S. We have what's called what? Repetition of that initial letter. Alliteration is a sound device. Often in a poem, alliteration does not serve meaning. It exists purely for sound. In this poem, I would argue, alliteration serves meaning. Can someone tell me how? Sam?
Like all the S's, it kind of sounds like you like swinging, something like that.
If you swing a long sickle, you're going to hear a... And if you read this poem, the sound of steel on stones are sharpening, sighs, silent, swinging, startled, squealing. There's a repetition of the initial S sound, which directly mirrors the action of what the Black Reapers in the poem are doing. Thus, sound serves meaning. Thus, sound serves summarizing of speaker and occasion. We have several words with denotation, connotation, and we have alliteration as we go through here. We also have, at the ending of each line here, a specific rhyme scheme. There's a rhythm. Stones, hones, done, won, weeds, bleeds, blade, shade. Within the denotation and connotation and sound of words, we also have a few other aspects to sound. We have sometimes sweet sounding words, like sweet, like willow, luscious,
Decadent.
Tickle.
tickle. These sweet sounding words have a word to describe them. It starts with an E. Do you remember?
Ethos.
It is related to euphoria, bliss, euphony. Euphony is sweet sounding. Sweet sounding words, soft words, nice words, delicate words. If you are in love with someone and you have a significant other, you will whisper sweet words into that person's ear.
Sweet nothings.
Sweet nothings of love, of life, of laughter, and possibly of little kisses.
Fingers.
Tickling. Tickle, tickle, tickle.
Always tickling.
If you have words like cutting, blood-stained, blade, blades, blah, these are not sweet-sounding words. They are what?
Anti-euphony.
Mouthful.
They are cacophony.
Oh, cacophonous.
Wait, I'm coming to a blank in my spelling. C-A-C-O.
C-A-C-O. Yes.
Z-R-T-Y.
I was thinking C-A-C-A, like,
Haku.
I don't know what. Cacophony. Cacophony is our harsh sounding. Now, here's what's interesting about cacophony. Often, this is related to putting two consonants back to back. And, by the way, we're not going to get into this in our discussion today. It's a condensed class. But, if you look at what our generally accepted as bad words, you know, crude words or whatever, they often are composed of cacophonous elements. Cacophonous elements often make up these crude words because in the context that is often necessary. Take the S word, for example. The SH, the sh, and the harsh T. When you stub your toe, there's a reason you don't say willow tree. There's a reason you don't say bubbles. You say shh, because it directly relates to your feeling at the time. And you ultimately feel better when your body enables you to release a cacophonous sound than if you said, willow tree! No, that doesn't work. But you take a word like that, and or the CK sound, it's cacophonous and it works. In our poem, we see that with the BL. Blood, blade, bleed, blah. Put it together. Buh can often be sweet, bubble, but blah, blah makes it automatically negative. These aspects of euphony and cacophony are essential to contributing to the tone, and the tone is essential to contributing to the central purpose. Now, think literally about the summary in this poem. You've got a bunch of guys out in this field cutting the grass with these long scythes. And what happens?
A mouse dies.
A rat, a field rat is cut. Now, if it were a mouse, we'd probably feel worse. Cute, little, cuddly mouse. What's that little book about the mouse?
If you get a mouse a cookie.
Not that one. But there is that. I'm thinking of Stuart Little. Cute, little, captivating mouse, right? We like mice, we don't like rats. Rats are nasty, they're disgusting. Until Ratatouille, they were nasty and disgusting. And even now, it's kind of nasty and disgusting.
Lies.
Who cares if a rat dies? But this poor little field rat, who just so happened to be in the center of this field as they were cutting, is cut along the stomach, and he squeals. It's not really good squeal, but that's the best I could do on a moment's notice. And he lies there, bleeding out, bleeding out, bleeding out, and he dies. And what do the Reapers continue doing?
Cutting the grass.
They don't stop and say, "Good Lord, a rat has died, get him to the hospital." No, Keep going. They keep going.
I was kind of upset when the rat didn't say that he was slain.
Oh, I was like.
Yes.
Again,
You know-
just thinking Beowulf is
I know
really
you're trying to get me off track, but I will say,
It's working.
in Shakespeare, I get very excited about this. If you look at his tragedy plays, there is significant proof that his plays were written in such a way that you do not have to see the action on the stage to know what is going on. And I believe part of this is because a lot of the people in the audience could not see. Most of the seats in the theater were for groundlings, which are people who stand down here and watch the stage. And if you have a short person behind a tall person, you can't see anything on that daggone stage. But you're paying for your ticket, and you better be glad you saw that play. So I believe that Shakespeare wrote his plays in such a way that you would understand what was going on even if you couldn't see. Okay, you're watching the stage. Polonius is stabbed. There is no reason for him to say anything at all. But he says, "Oh, I am slain." Why the significance? Someone not watching can hear Hamlet say, "A rat, a rat." Then they can hear someone say, "Oh, I'm slain," and piece it together. You see this a lot, like in Romeo and Juliet. That scene is powerful enough that she doesn't need to say anything. That is powerful enough that the audience would be captivated by watching the scene with her taking the dagger and going like this. Instead, she narrates. No one narrates when he or she is committing suicide. No one says, I'm not going to act this because I'm sure.
But ghosts don't exist either. Alright, you take
And you know what? There is a good, significant chance in Hamlet that neither does the ghost of his father. If you think about it, only 3 people other than Hamlet see that ghost. And the ghost does not speak to any of them. The ghost only speaks to Hamlet. And by the end, we are left with the question of whether or not Hamlet is legitimately crazy. What if the ghost of his father never actually spoke? Now, we know for a fact that Claudius was guilty in the murder of the brother because he admits it. And when he admits it, what is he doing? Does anyone remember? It's right after the play, The Mousetrap. And he's in the chapel.
Right.
Right, right.
Yeah,
He's praying. Why doesn't Hamlet kill him at that point?
because he wants him to go to hell.
Yes. He doesn't want to kill him while he's confessing his sins. He wants to kill him while he has a chance not to because
That's what he did to his dad.
that's what he did to his dad. So there are sound elements and sound parts to all of this. And you're right, the rat does not say, "Oh, I am slain," but how much better would that be if he did?
A lot.
I wouldn't.
In a tiny little rat voice. And then the reapers would say, "Yes, but I don't care." And they go on their way. Now, if we think about this poem, first of all, it's a short poem. It's about a subject that doesn't seem that significant. We have to put this in the larger picture. Keeping in mind that there's a negative tone through the connotation of the cacophonous words, leaving us with bleak imagery. Put this all together and you get a sense that these reapers are more than just reapers. This rat is more than just a rat. The reapers, people, humans, what are they engaged in doing?
Cutting grass.
Cutting grass. The grass is part of what?
Earth.
As is the rat. Part of what? Think about one of the central themes in all of literature. Humans' impact on what?
The earth.
The natural world. Here you have the sharp, cutting impact of a group of humans placed in a scenario where they are cutting and harvesting and cruelly damaging the earth. And here you have this representative of the natural world, this rat, that the humans care nothing for and carelessly go right past, probably not even realizing they have just killed and destroyed it. They go about their business in a repetitive, swinging, bleak motion. And in that way, it is clear that in this poem, the human aspect ultimately seeks to be indifferent to the cries of the natural world, going about their business. If we had to word the central poem in this way, we would probably come up with some aspect of The poem seems to suggest that humanity's take on the world, or on the natural world, is one of indifference and even cutting cruelty or something. What we've done is we've looked at, number one, who's the speaker, what's the occasion. We've looked at the sound devices, which seem to be the primary devices in this poem. We've then looked at the tone, and we've then come up with the central purpose. The fourth question is, what is the means? In other words, prove it. If that's your central purpose, prove it. Well, that's easy because we've already done that. We'd start by saying, okay, there's a bleak, dismal tone, as referenced by the onslaught of cacophonous words, like bleed and blood-stained and cutting. These words, in their cacophony, bring up the connotations of negative things, of harsh cutting, of cruelty. The action in the poem is done by the humans toward the natural world. Therefore, we arrive at this tone and this central purpose. But we're left with this unsettling imagery of a field, blood-stained ground, cut grass as the humans move through. It's sort of like those images in the movies where you see the lumberjacks or these big lumber companies go into a forest, and then you just see all these tree trunks, as far as the eye can see, littering the ground, and the forest is gone. It's that kind of image that lingers with us in this poem. Who cares nothing for the animals? There's a scene in the book Test of the D'Urbervilles, which is a really good book from the time period of Jane Eyre, where you have these cutters, these mowers, mowing this big field, and they're doing it in a square. So it looks like this. Cut, 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 cut. And all the animals in this field are running toward the center. You have some wolves, you have some coyotes, you have a fox, you have a badger, you have squirrels. They're all trying to get away from these mowers, and they're running toward the center. Until finally there's this small patch of grass left where all of the animals are just hiding. And then the mower just cuts right through it, killing them all.
He does?
And in that moment, there's just the death of the natural world trying to hide from this destruction that we bring to it. This is kind of an ongoing idea, and Jean Toomer in the poem Reapers does just that. Now, let's take our second poem and look at how this brings up the same idea of cacophony. You're going to find that the tone in this poem is similar.
When was Reapers written?
I don't know the date.
Around the time?
I don't know. We can probably look it up pretty easily. Noah will recognize this poem from speech class, one of my favorites. I took a group, a May-term group, to London and Paris 3 years ago.
I don't think we read this either.
A couple people did. Were you here for poem? You weren't here for poem recital
I
day.
was. No, I was.
Okay, this one was read. I had the students memorize this poem and recite it when in London, and it basically made our tour group look like a bunch of nerds. It was awesome. So this poem's called London by William Blake. I'm going to read it to you, and then I'm going to be silent. And after I read it and am silent, and during the silence, I want you to go through and circle any words that you feel are significant, and then note them as either euphony or cacophony. And then see if you can determine a tone based purely on the words. So here we go. I wander through each chartered street, near where the chartered Thames does flow, and mark in every face I meet marks of weakness, marks of woe. In every cry of every man, in every infant's cry of fear, in every voice, in every ban, the mind-forged manacles I hear. How the chimney sweepers cry, every blackening church appalls, and the hapless soldier's sigh runs in blood down palace walls. But most through midnight streets I hear how the youthful harlot's curse blasts the newborn infant's tear and blights with plagues the marriage hearse. So circle significant words, label them as euphony and cacophony, and then come up with a word that describes the tone. Also note how the tone of the weather outside seems to mirror that in the poem. Devin, let's look at the first stanza here. What words did you point out in the first stanza?
Flow.
And what about that word?
I thought it sounded euphony.
It is a euphemistic word, right?
Flow. Flow. So it would be like a good place to start out with. Then
Our first two lines, Jeremy, I would agree. Our first two lines of this poem, if they are all that we had, we would think we were reading a different poem. I wander through each chartered street, near where the chartered Thames does flow. It's sweet. Wander? It's like that Daffodils poem. You're wandering through a field of daffodils. I wander, the Thames does flow. Not that it rips or burns or torrential spread, it just flows. It's sweet. Devin, what happens next?
marks of weakness, marks of woe. It's all pretty cacophonous.
Very cacophonous. Now here's what's significant about that. The person seems to be this speaker. Question one. What is the speaker doing?
They're walking through the streets of London.
Yeah, the poem's called London. I wander through each chartered street near where the chartered Thames flow. The Thames River flows through the heart of London. The speaker, who is presumably someone out on a walk, is walking the streets. And in the first three lines of the poem, we think this person is out for a pleasant stroll. I wander through each chartered street, near where the chartered Thames flow, and mark in every face I meet marks. The second use of that word marks introduces our first cacophony into this poem. Here's my question for you. Why is it the second use of marks and not the first that is cacophonous?
Because of that KS.
Well, the first one, okay, because of the S at the end. Okay, I think possibly, yes. But something has changed in terms of part of speech.
Mark is a verb in the first one.
It's a verb in line 3. I mark, and mark in every face I meet. Mark as in see or note. And note in every face I meet. How is it being used in the fourth line?
Yeah.
A noun. Marks of weakness, marks of woe. Now, we're not going to get into a discussion on rhythm and meter because it's too complicated. It's too complicated of a discussion for today's purpose, which is a condensing of poetry. But as a brief introduction, this poem is in iambic meter, which is a very sweet sounding meter. I wander through each chartered street, near where the chartered Thames does flow, and mark in every face I meet, until the fourth line. where it switches from iambic to trochaic. With trochaic, the emphasis is on the first syllable. Our speaker deliberately changes the metrical pattern as soon as the words become more cacophonous. Now listen to how this sounds different. Near where the Charter Thames does flow, and mark in every face I meet, marks of weakness, marks of woe. Now I overemphasized it, but the fact is, the word marks and weak, marks, woe are all emphasized. The metrical pattern is reversed, and all of those words are harsh sounding. Marks, weak, marks, woe. Woe. Oh, woe is me. Oh, woeful day. These times of woe afford us no time to woo. So says Paris in Romeo and Juliet. How about the second stanza? Noah, where do we see significant words here?
Cry.
Cry is repeated twice.
Yeah.
It's a harsh sounding word. What else?
Fear.
Fear is just that has negative connotations. Fear is not good.
Manacles.
That is just an intense word.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It's manacles like chains, binding you. Manacles.
Heavy
That's-
chains.
that's just
Heavy
like-
chains.
Yeah, it has the connotation of chains you can't move. Chains that bind you like adamantine steel, except you are not Satan on a lake of fire. So, we are here, mind-forged manacles. Third stanza, Sam.
Cry again, appalls,
Yes.
hapless inside and blood.
Look at these words. They're littered in here. And all of them are cacophonous. How the chimney sweepers cry. Vince, what is the job of a chimney sweep?
Just clear out the chimney.
How does he go about it?
He climbs down in there and starts brushing around.
Typically, the chimney sweeps employ young children, young boys. Why?
Because they
They're
were
They're
small.
more
They were
expendable.
small, they could fit in there, and they were expendable. And so they would send these boys down there, and after a couple of years, the boys would die because of lung issues and various things. Or if they didn't die, they would probably be damaged for the rest of their lives. And so the chimney sweepers cry. Every blackening church appalls. Perhaps even the churches would employ these young chimney sweepers to clean out their chimneys as well. And the hapless soldier's sigh runs in blood down palace walls. Send the soldiers out to fight your fights so you can hide behind the palace at night. So it goes. Next stanza, Ola, where's our significant words here?
Midnight streets, harlot's curse,
Ooh.
here, plagues, marriage hearse.
I think even the word blasts too. Typically when you talk about an infant's, noise or tear or something, it's often sweet. But here, blasts the newborn, newborn infant's tear, and blights with plagues the marriage hearse. Let me ask you this. What word did you write down for tone? Andrew?
Cacophonous for blight, or blast.
Well, what was your tone? What? Give me an adjective.
And it was kind of like, just like painful.
Painful's good. Jeremy?
Hopeless.
Hopeless. Whew, that is, yeah, exactly. Noah?
Hopeless.
Wow, you want me to give you the same praise for repeating someone?
I'm expecting you to.
Okay, you're not going to get it. Vince?
Aw.
Surrender. Ooh, that's good too. None of these are positive words. Hopeless, surrendered, bleak, ugh. When the poem starts, you don't realize that. But the speaker, someone walking, the occasion walking through London, brings about this tone. This tone is going to be significant, along with these words, to our defining of the central purpose. Let's take some stabs at this. Noah, since you so eloquently devised a word for tone,
Thank you.
how would you word the central purpose in this poem, given the action and the language?
The central purpose of this poem is to, I don't really know what.
Through its hopeless tone, the poem what?
I got the
Demonstrates-
hopeless tone.
No, I know, I'm giving you the start of your answer. Through its hopeless tone, the poem demonstrates, fill in the rest. The,
The bad parts of London.
okay, now, let's spice that up a little bit. Hold on. Through its hopeless tone, the poem demonstrates the bad parts of London, the bad side of it. Spice it up.
The futility of the English people.
Now it sounds, would that be racist or would that be, it just sounds mean. Because here London is going to be a microcosm of all humanity in some way. So what we have here seems to be a very sad, depressed view of this slice of humanity in this city. And that is conveyed to us through this hopeless tone. Someone else take a stab at the central purpose. Vince.
Through its hopeless tone, the poem demonstrates the dark side of London that most people don't get to see.
Not bad. Not bad. Maybe cut off the, that most people don't get to see, the dark side of London. Anything there? Any other help? Justin, Jeremy?
That represents the darkness of humanity.
The darkness of humanity through a glimpse at the streets of London, or something. Okay? You piece some things together, you work it out, you've got a central purpose. Someone says, prove it! And you say, okay, there's a hopeless tone. Prove it! Okay, how do you prove it? Vince.
Point out all the cacophonous words.
The cacophonous words, over and over. Point out how there's a shift in metrical pattern in the fourth line, introducing a cacophonous change in pace. The tone necessarily shifts, and for the duration of the poem, after that line, everything is negative. Therefore, the tone is negative. Therefore, this entire poem brings a bleak view of humanity through a walk of London. And there you have it.
Way better.
It's what?
Is it what the poet is trying to say, or what the main, I guess, character is trying to say?
I should pay you for that question. I love that question. This is probably something that you would spend 3 or 4 days on answering in class, because that is the most difficult question to answer in literature. And it's a question that every student wonders at some point. Because you have these teachers up here in front of the class saying, well, clearly the tone, clearly the theme, clearly the central irony, and this yada yada yada, and going on and on and on and on. And after a while, you're like, for crying out loud, did the author intend any of that? Maybe the dude just wrote his poem after a stroll in London and just, sent it off to publication. Here's the answer I'm going to give you, and it's the same answer that you will find in your Sound and Sense textbook, which is part of the reason why I use this textbook, because I agree with these authors completely. My answer for you is this. Author is creator. Poem or book, created being. Creator can say all that he or she wants about created being. But created being must speak for him or herself. Case in point, Andrew. Andrew's parents could come in here and tell us everything we need to know about Andrew. But what's the problem?
They aren't Andrew.
They're not Andrew. Yeah, they created Andrew. Yeah, they are essential in Andrew's coming to exist. But they're not Andrew. Only Andrew is Andrew. Only Andrew can speak for Andrew. I would give the same argument about a poem. And I would argue this. William Blake, William Schmidt. London is the poem. We don't say William Blake's purpose in this poem, because the fact of the matter is, we can never know William Blake's purpose. Because we can't ask William Blake. And even if we could ask William Blake, who's to say that he even knows what his purpose was? But we can know the poem's purpose. Why?
Because we can interpret it.
Because we have it right here. And if you say, this is the central purpose, and then you can say, here's how I got that, it's kind of like showing your work in math class. no one can dispute it. If you can say, look, now in math class, if you show your work and there's a problem, an incorrect interpretation of the numbers of some sort, then you're wrong. But if you can show your work and it adds up, you're right. And that's the thing about poetry. If you can say, here's the central purpose and show, this is how I got to that point. This is how. Here's the tone, here's how the tone is conveyed, here's the uses of figurative language that bring the central purpose about. My gosh, no one can argue with you. And that's why this is so significant. This study of poetry is a study of literature. And I'm serious when I say, if you know how to do this, you can do this with any work of literature, and you will be a literary scholar. This is all it takes. Close reading, paying attention to details, and interpreting according to these aspects. Through London. Okay? Got another poem for you. Told you, man, this is just long. It's a long day. But when we finish this, you're going to be able to do this with any poem, I assure you. Our next one's a cute one. By cute, I mean cuddly. By cuddly, I mean, I don't know what I mean.
Tickly?
Tickly. 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 All right. We are reading the first one called The Hound. Do we have big fans of Game of Thrones in here?
Yeah.
So this is like The Hound, right? Joffrey's Hound.
Oh,
See? See what we're doing there?
yeah.
Okay, so there's that. I stopped watching the show because
So did
I didn't like it.
The book's
I. Why
fine.
not?
But the books, although I haven't read the fifth, because I don't want to read the fifth until the sixth is out. And I don't think the sixth is ever coming out. So, we'll see.
He legitimately might die before he publishes
Yes.
it.
Yes.
Which is a very scary thought.
Yes.
Oh, but do you know how many like side writers he has just to like keep track of like every like plot? I'm sure they could do something. He's probably told them everything about how it's going to end.
He probably has. And there's also the question, though, of the ethereal legitimacy to that. You know, has he created a world with an end in mind, or is he kind of creating the world as he goes? I mean, there are different ways to think about this, and different aspects to it that are significant. But we have a poem called The Hound, and here it is. The Hound. Let's have Sam, if you could read it to us.
Like the hound, equivocal, comes at a bound, either to rend me or to befriend me. I cannot tell the hound's intent till he has sprung at my bare hand with teeth or tongue. Meanwhile, I stand and wait the event.
Okay, let's break this down pretty easily. Like the hound. What is a hound? What does a dog do?
Big dog.
He gets
Hand.
down on his
Hands?
ground and asks you to scratch him.
Yes. They also go woof or ruff or ruff or
But
woof woof.
You're trying to
they didn't say
get a
dog.
growl
they
out
said
there, but you're a little
hound.
shy, aren't you?
My growls sound a lot like my rolled R's, which sound a lot like my.
You're
And if
not.
a dog did that to you, you would probably need to run.
No. He wants to be pet.
I don't know what would be wrong with that dog.
But he didn't say dog, he said hound.
Hound.
How?
Okay, let me ask you this now. Why is that significant?
He's a
Like big,
hunter.
a bigger dog that.
Typically, when you see a Pomeranian or you see a Chihuahua, you do not say hound.
Big,
You
powerful
say
dog.
Puppy.
rat.
I agree.
Okay?
Actually, they're drop kicks. That's
Therefore, Noah, you're absolutely right. The connotation of this word suggests a larger dog than perhaps we otherwise think. Like the hound. Now, what is the dog doing? Equivocal. Comes at a bound, either to rend me or befriend me. What's the dog doing?
He's running at you.
That's how they run. I've watched dogs run. They go,
The paws go back and forth.
yeah,
Like.
on two legs. They oh, I don't know. That's what I'm visualizing here. Visual
So have
imagery.
to be Dumb and Dumber.
The dog is running towards you. I cannot tell the hound's intent till he has sprung at my bare teeth, or my bare hand with teeth or tongue. What's the speaker thinking at this point?
He could either attack him or love him.
And so what does the speaker decide to do? Meanwhile, I stand and wait the event.
Oh, he waits.
Question one. Who's the speaker? Vince, answer.
Somebody who sees a dog running at them.
What's the occasion, Noah?
somebody dog running at them.
You find that sometimes questions 1 and 2 merge together. It's someone who's a dog running at him. Boom. Question 1 and 2. That's it. Central purpose is more complicated than that. But the central purpose is answered by the first 3 words.
Life the hound.
Therefore what?
The central purpose is to express the
Just stop.
nature.
Just stop. Because Ola has just said it in the most succinct and yet profoundly correct way imaginable. Wow, what are you going to do now? Ola has the stage. Your central purpose?
The unpredictable nature of life.
Now, we would just weave that into a sentence because that's a
That's
phrase.
what I was doing.
You were doing it more slowly than she was.
That's fair.
Okay.
I
You
won't
know, if
argue
this
with
is Jeopardy,
that.
I'd win.
Yes. In other words, the poem's central purpose is to demonstrate, I use that word a lot in determining central purpose. The poem's central purpose is to demonstrate the unpredictable nature of life through its use of a central what?
Idea.
Life the hound.
Oh.
I'm going to make this argument to you. Out of all the aspects of figurative language, this one is the most significant. The most significant, because I would argue to you, our language and every culture is so deeply immersed in metaphoric aspects. This is this. Because often, when you're communicating with someone, you don't always know how to explain something, so you explain it by saying, it's like this other thing.
Which is simile.
The simile is but a subcategory of metaphor, and quite frankly, doesn't matter. The only reason we differentiate the two is so in junior high, we have something else to quiz you about. A simile is a metaphor. The only difference is you can easily spot it because it says like or as. But a metaphor is very simply a comparison between two things that are usually unlike in nature. Now, here's where it gets really complicated. This is what your book was trying to do, and it overcomplicated something that is already complicated. So, overcomplicating a complicated thing is difficult to do. Your book did it. There are 4 types of metaphors. I'm going to give you a very basic chart here. Okay?
Yeah.
Can you kind of explain it?
It's because you compare a literal thing with a figurative thing. And
Mhm.
so the 4 kinds of metaphors are whether they are implied or named.
Perfect. Okay. Literal, figurative. This is the aspect of every metaphor. Every metaphor begins with a grounded thing, either a notion or a person or an object. What is our literal thing in this poem? The grounded thing. Life. I say to you, Andrew, describe life. Andrew could say anything at this point, but he chooses to use a metaphor. He says, you want to know about life? You want to know about this literal thing, life? Life is like a dog. A hound dog.
You ain't nothing but a hound dog.
Crying all the time.
You ain't nothing but a hound dog. Crying all the time.
Wait, can you do
And
the
ain't
can you do the
never
knee
thought
thing?
about, but you ain't no
No,
friend.
but I only know it from Forrest Gump.
Oh, come on.
Oh, do the dance.
Literal,
I might not
figurative.
be a smart man, but I know what love is.
Mavens.
Life,
Yes.
hound. Now, here's why this is significant. This is what Ola was saying. There is named and then unnamed. So we are going to simplify this as N and U. Named, unnamed, or known, unknown. Named, unnamed. This is with the aspect of metaphors. Every metaphor has a literal and a figurative aspect. Life, the hound. Both of these are named. We know exactly what this poem is talking about. It's talking about life, and it's comparing life to a giant dog that is coming at you.
Giant.
Okay, to a dog.
If it was a big dog, I'd be afraid of him even if he was friendly.
Hound implies a large dog.
That's kind of
A
the
very
point.
large
The point is,
right?
you're standing here and a dog is running towards you, and you know that you've been instructed, whatever you do, don't run. That is the worst possible thing you could do in this scenario. Because if you run, that dog will chase you, and then regardless of the dog's intent, the dog will knock you down. And then you're in a worse scenario. You stand, and you wait. And that dog running towards you might come up and lick your hand. Cute little dog, and you can nuzzle behind the ears. Or that dog might knock you down and bite your jugular, and you will bleed to death in a matter of minutes, probably less.
Dope.
That's cool.
How is life like that?
You have to stay and take it. You can't escape life.
Because often there are events that
No, choose quicker.
choose quicker, and mine's better.
Let's hear it. Take your time.
Often in life,
Take your time.
oh my gosh.
Okay.
Alright, I don't even want
There we go.
Now
You
we
know
can
what?
walk.
Wait for it.
Short and sweet.
Okay, go ahead. No, that's good. That's good. I like that.
And that's my idea.
I get it.
Yeah?
I get it.
Honestly.
Often in life,
Faster and
there are
and better
events
Oh, here we go.
in which we do not know if we will end up on the good side or the bad side after they are completed, but we can't stop them from happening.
You got someone you like?
I think mine more fully explains the
Maybe
poem
so too.
than
Can
what
I-
she said. I don't know, because
Can I
before
finish?
I couldn't.
My analogy, which by the way, an analogy is often just a branch off of a metaphor.
Oh,
Thank you.
just
You've got someone you
It's
like.
just another
You don't know if the person likes you. You're going to go up and ask that person out. And it could go really well, or it could go really, really bad. Especially now with social media, you've got a lot at stake. It's like that dog running towards you. You can just not do anything, or you can do something, and either that dog will rip you apart. I'm not saying your significant other's a dog, but that dog could rip you apart,
You don't know me.
or that dog could make out with you.
Wow.
Oh.
And you don't know. And man, is that
Saw
scary.
you making out with a dog earlier. You were tickling.
Yes.
I just imagine that as you were growing up, you were taught that that's just part of petting a dog. So you didn't realize that it's weird and completely nasty.
I'll tell you where I first realized it was weird, is when I was over at a friend's house
Yeah.
doing that to their dog.
Right.
And the mom walked in and immediately phoned my mother. And there was a weird conversation that ensued, some
Yeah.
counseling and some vet bills.
Your mother gets a lot of weird calls.
You know, so there's that.
Your
Yeah.
teacher called.
Oh, the squirrel.
Yeah.
That's it. Now, here's the point to this. This is kind of a level 1 poem. It's obvious, and it's good, it's true. It's very true. But think about all the other metaphors you could use. Like the waterfall, like the road. My gosh, how many songs we're going to
Like
hear
the
about
sand.
that?
Life is a highway. I wanna drive it all night.
That is exactly what this poem is. It's a highway that might lead here, it might lead here, you don't know, you have to ride on the highway. Life the desk, life the room, life the boat, life the car, life the whatever, you can make it work. Anything that has the idea at its core of the unpredictability of its outcome. If you're given this poem to analyze, my gosh, you're in luck. Because in metaphoric aspects, both of your things are named, literal and figurative. What happens when one is not named or both are not named? Often this happens with Emily Dickinson. She's perhaps one of the most complicated poets in American literature, and most of her poems involve these sort of tricky metaphors. In one of her poems, she says, "It sifts from leaden sieves." She goes on to talk about how it covers the train tracks. Now, looking at that first line, it sifts from leaden sieves.
Yeah, that's not how you do those steps.
It's not?
I don't think so.
How do you you spell
EI, right?
No, that's it.
That's it?
it? ID.
It's just pronounced
Sieves,
I
Sieves,
Sieves everywhere. I watched.
Sieves.
I've never heard Sieves.
It's definitely Civ.
I've heard Sieves.
I've literally never heard Sieves.
I won't say this.
Either way,
Road.
regardless, hopefully you all kind of know what we're talking about. What is it?
Flower.
When you take flour and put it into one of those flour sifters and you turn the little wheel on the side, flour just kind of floats down. It sifts from leaden sieves, like flour. What looks a lot like flour when you turn that wheel? Snow. Now, if you read the whole poem, it'd be a little clearer. But in this poem, neither the literal nor the figurative is named.
Wait, what's the figurative?
The figurative
Oh,
is
it's the flower.
like flour.
Why
the
does it
poet-
use the word leaden?
The poet, talking about like a dark sky,
Oh.
as if the sky is a giant sieve or sifter, and it's floating down from the sky. So imagine looking at a snow as it's coming down and thinking, that looks a lot like flour, as you sift it. And then imagine a poem saying, the snow fell like flour from a sieve. Okay, that's very straightforward. But to say, it sifts from leaden sieves, you don't know what it is, nor do you know what it's describing. But as you begin to think about it and piece it together, it becomes a more richer image. More richer is not correct. It becomes a rich image in your mind. It is visual imagery, and then all of a sudden it's tactile imagery because you're picturing the snow falling. And then all of a sudden it is gustatory imagery because you're picturing as the snow hits your tongue and you open your mouth and you dance around like this, and then you realize people are looking and you stop and you hang your head and you walk away. Because life is like that. Life is like walking out and realizing that people are watching you do something stupid and being embarrassed.
Social media right
Social media.
Are you talking about your career?
there. Is that where the acting comes
Fake laugh into real cry.
What would you do?
I
I just started crying. Legitimately
I really-
crying.
Take a video and put it on Twitter.
Yeah,
I
see
feel
that
like
video.
Paul was
Already
married
got
or
video.
something.
No, like I actually, I legitimately cried.
I would get Miss Barron and I
There's just
absolutely
this moment where it's like,
Honestly, I
Too
think
much.
I would just sit in silence until you stop. Because what do you do?
What do you do?
I can't console
What do you do?
you.
I don't know.
Oh my
I don't
God.
know what to tell you.
Paul's in
Run down to the athletic office and get your wife.
Except to tell you
Get you
this.
Gatorade and saltine crackers.
You have now made it through part 2 of 3.
Oh, yeah,
Whoa!
baby.
5-minute break.